Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
I threw a wish in the well. Don't ask me, I'll never tell. I looked at you as it fell, and now you're in my way. I trade my soul for a wish, pennies and dimes for a kiss. I wasn't looking for this, but now
Thank you for joining me for another edition of the Bob Sullivan Show here on latenightsportsradio.com. If you want to call in, the call-in number is 585-633-7487. I'm joined tonight by EJ Christian of the Earnest Christian Radio Show. How are you doing today, EJ?
What's up, Bob?
Not too much. Our Giants lost tonight against the Cowboys. Are we Giants? I mean, there's no point getting upset over it until the playoffs.
No,
I mean,
it's just.
They just have to get there. I mean, and I'm not. The only concerning thing is Eli's usually successful at New Cowboys Stadium.
Right. But as I said all year long before the year started, this was a rebuilding year for the Giants. I'm actually shocked that we were 3-4 at this point. I thought they'd be worse. Remember, it's a brand new system in place. It's the first scheme they've run with Eli in about 8 years. With Bob McAdoo's, West Coast offense. Defense is being retooled. It's a new kind of, I won't say regime, but it's kind of a lot of young players on the opposite side of the ball. So I'm actually happy that they're 3-4. I thought they were very competitive today. In the case of Dallas, though, I'm buying in. I'm buying week to week, obviously. And I've been saying on radio show for a couple of weeks now. One of the things the Cowboys I've noticed is they're really good, number one, and they actually are not beating themselves. What's happening now is they're doing the thing that I think every common sense football logical person has said for years. If you take pressure off Tony Romo and get the ball to Walker Murray and at least mix, work on play calling and balance the offense and not have to depend solely on Romo to win games, this team can be very dangerous. And years and years have gone by where they've gone the opposite and tried to be too cute with the football, and there's trouble, obviously. This Cowboys team is real. And the reason I say this is because of the fact that that they're winning games now the way I've always said, and people in football insiders too will tell you, when January comes, you win the games won in the trenches, no matter how good your offense is. You've seen some of the greatest offenses in NFL history, win 14 games, 15 games, even 16-0. But playoff time comes, it's all about the running game, it's about your O-line, it's about the trenches. Dallas winning games down in the trenches, and that's what's scary now.
With Romo, he's always said that his hero is Brett Favre, and
right.
He tries to play like Favre, and everybody is like, he's got a little Favre in him. And then he throws the big interception like Favre does.
Yeah.
He's kind of playing like the Favre in Minnesota, not the Favre in Green Bay right now. And, only doing what he needs, he'll have the occasional interception that's bad, but it's like he's playing a little more disciplined than he's, ordinarily been than his ordinary self. And that kind of frightens me a little bit about the Cowboys.
Well, again, it's the play calling. It's Jason, as much as he's not Jason Garrett through the years, he deserves credit here. He's not trying to be cute. He's just trying to, you have it offensive line. Right now, the Cowboys have the best offensive line in football. I mean, I actually made, I watched Dallas a lot this year, but today, especially being a Giant fan, I paid even more attention to the Cowboys' O-line, and they are really good. I mean, they are big, and they are nasty. And, like I said, the Cowboys don't deserve the right to give them benefit of the doubt because of the fact they've always done these things where they start well and they end bad in December. But if you're telling me right now, am I buying in from the East? Absolutely. Within the NFC, I would say I'm trending that way. I won't say yes yet, but they're definitely on the way to being that best team in the NFC. Because, I mean, like I said, they're doing it. They already have the talent, you know. And as I've been saying, too, also, you know, find me another team in the league right now, currently through 7 weeks, that has a top 10 quarterback. Because, yes, folks, Tony Romo is a top 10 quarterback. Let's not get that twisted, okay? A running back, you know, right now, the best running back in football, Mark Murray is the best running back in football. A top 3 receiver in Des Bryant, the best O-line of football, and a defense playing at a high, you know, playing very, very well. The Cowboys are the only team that have all those variables. So, like I said, they are very dangerous. And if this is the Cowboys team we see in January, they may, in fact, represent the NFC in football.
Do you think Romo doesn't get enough credit? Like, I mean, obviously he's had his shortcomings in the playoffs. And, I mean, we've had this conversation on your show, you know, over the years about Romo. And, I mean, we've always agreed that Romo doesn't get the credit. But, you know, everybody wants to say, yeah, he throws the big interception. But his numbers in the fourth quarter aren't bad. It's, you know, I guess late in the fourth quarter when he has that fumble. It's when everybody's watching is when he has the trouble. How do you know, when is he going to rewrite that script when everybody's watching? Because this wasn't a game everybody was watching.
Well, it was a big game. Anytime the Giants are on TV, I mean, that market, you're going to have a lot of eyes. Cowboys, Giants, you know, any Cowboys game for the most part is fairly big. But, you know, and I've said for years, too, I'm actually, I'm not even a Cowboys fan, and I'm actually a Romo guy. I actually like Tony Romo. I mean, one of the things we've said, I think you and I discussed before in the past, is that Romo makes mistakes. Because Romo, to be honest, if you look at his numbers, you know, through his career, he's actually one of the 5 most efficient quarterbacks to ever play this game of football. I mean, his numbers are right there with Steve Young and all the greats of all time in terms of efficiency. The problem with Romo is that he throws picks. It's the pick. Like, you know, you'll see Brady, you'll see Manning, they'll throw a pick, but they'll throw a pick and then make up for it later on in the game. Romo will throw a pick literally at the worst time of the game, and that's been the knock on Romo. But, you know, at the same time, I think Romo gets no credit. I think Romo, over the last couple of years, you know, he hasn't had any good teams. I've said all along for the last 2-3 years that you take Romo off the Cowboys, not including this year, but the last couple of years prior to this year, you take Romo off the Cowboys, that team wins no more than 3 games. That team, those Cowboys teams last couple of years are bad. They're really bad.
Well, and Eli makes up for interceptions by winning the Super Bowl. So,
well, I mean, yeah, you can look at it that way.
I'm messing around, but with Romo, I don't understand. You know, with him, you know, it seems like if he was the quarterback of any other franchise, I think people, you know, it would be everybody would be pretty satisfied with, you know, what he does.
Oh, no doubt.
It's just a Cowboys thing. I mean, yeah, he'd be labeled a choker, but it wouldn't be to the level that he is right now. It's just right now, I mean, his problem isn't the Tony Romo problem isn't Tony Romo. The Tony Romo problem is the coaches he's played for. Other than Parcells, Wade Phillips is a bum. No pun intended, because his father's name is Bum. But and Jason Garrett is garbage. And, you know, really offensive coordinator wise, what has he had? What has he worked with coaching wise? And, you know, other than this, you know, with Des Bryant and DeMarco Murray, I mean, he's had some good, and Jason Witten, he hasn't really had, you know, he's had kind of a washed up T.O. He hasn't really had, you know,
T.O. was good for years in Dallas. He was just a little bit of a, but I mean, outside of T.O., yeah, he's got some bad teams. And he made players better. I said, you know, all summer long too. I said this as well, is that you put Romo in Cincinnati or in Houston, they're a Super Bowl contender immediately with him, because those teams are low the talent. Those teams have weapons. Those teams also have top tier defenses. You know, like, it's funny. Like, the one game that was the total conundrum of Romo's career was that game last year against Denver. Remember that Denver game last year where they lost 51-48 and Romo got late pick? Okay. Once again, look at the score. 51-48, but we're going to blame Tony Romo for the loss. You know what I'm saying? That's the conundrum.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not the fact that Monty Kiffin was the defensive coordinator for the worst defense in the history of the NFL. Nobody wants to point that out.
Right. If it requires you to put up 48 points to win a game, then something's wrong with your team.
Well, I'm a little disappointed that we wound up talking about Tony Romo for 10 minutes, but
Okay.
you know, we usually get derailed by some type of conversation. But Seattle Seahawks losing to the Cowboys and the Rams back-to-back weeks. Obviously, the Cowboys seem like they're quote-unquote for real. The Rams, John Gruden seemed to think Austin Davis or whatever the hell his name is at quarterback was for real in the first half of that Niners game, and then we seem to think that he was I don't even know who he was in that second half. He was just garbage in that second half against the Niners.
Right.
And they beat the Seahawks. What is your take on the Seahawks right now? Should we worry? Obviously, there's locker room problems with Percy Harvin. He's gone. What's the problem right now in Seattle, as you said?
Well, should you worry if you're a Seahawks fan? Yes. Yeah, you should be concerned. But I think overall they'll be fine. You remember, too, also, they just lost one of their best players, you know, in that trade to the Jets, Percy Harvin, literally within 48 hours. So, literally, this team went through a little bit of a, I won't say metamorphosis, but definitely a little bit of a shift of change in that locker room. You know, coming to the year also, you know, I know I've on record said this, too, on the radio show, that I thought the Seahawks, you know, because now they're the bullseye. Now they've won the title, they are the bullseye now. So, seeing the team win 13 games again was actually a little far-fetched. I thought maybe them going 10-6 was a little more realistic. And I thought just get in the playoffs and they should be fine. And I still think overall they'll be okay. There's concerns obviously on both ends of the ball. I do think Russell Wilson is still great. I think he played great today in spite of the loss. But it'd be interesting to see how it clears out because the NFC right now, at least right now, the NFC looks like it's still pretty deep. But I still expect teams that are like maybe like not 5-2 or better than Seattle. I expect them to not be playing this well come November, December. Like I don't think Detroit will be playing this good. Although I was impressed about their win today without Calvin Johnson again. So, but it is. I won't say Seahawks fans will panic. But I'd definitely be a little concerned going forward. But they do need to win some games going forward, especially next week. But there's definitely some concern there a little bit.
Well, the thing with Seattle is, I mean, you lose Percy Harvin. The thing that is weird, you know, like, I don't think he gets enough credit for the Super Bowl. And, you know, everybody's, like, pointing at his numbers, like, oh, look at these numbers. They're not that good. He's way more effective than people give him credit for. They would not have won. Like, okay, Peyton Manning played like garbage in that Super Bowl, but, you know, Percy Harvin, you know, other than Bobby Wagner, he might have been the MVP if it wasn't for Bobby Wagner. The way he played the game. And Harvin is not, you know, his numbers are deceiving because, you know, like when John Gruden was, you know, fapping all over him over the during the Monday night game against Washington, it was like Percy Harvin. All he has wide receiver numbers and running back numbers. Nobody knows how to clarify him, so his numbers are deceiving because he does everything. It's not like his numbers are just for one category. If those were numbers just for a running back or just for a receiver, they'd look terrible. But he does everything, and I think, you know, people are trashing him now that he doesn't get along with Russell Wilson. So he obviously has to be a bad guy.
Well, I don't think they got rid of Harvin because of the fact that he's not good. They know he's good. I mean, I believe they got rid of Harvin because of the fact that there was a lot more. It was more of a pros and cons. It was the upside to keep them, you know, contracted man number one. Remember, he still was wanting to get paid top dollar. He was looking for a big extension. Also, the injuries, of course, you all know how his injury history. He hasn't been healthy. You know, I mean, last year he played 2 games last year, maybe 3. One of those games in the Super Bowl. And of course, locker room issues. I mean, whether these leaks are true or not, you know, I mean, if you see an issue, I mean,